Hello, welcome to Boardgame Basecoats, and today we are playing through Join the Foot, a tutorial scenario for the TMNT Adventures board game. Now this is the second of the tutorial scenarios, and I'll warn you right now, there are quite a few errors in here, but we'll talk about them as we go. Now this is actually one of the tougher adventures for the heroes, so that said, let's go ahead and jump right in. The turtles tail Alopex and discover she's training new foot ninja. This can't be good. With Alopex in the foot cornered, it's time to finally get some answers. Now what makes this scenario so tough for the heroes is they've got to move up those steps onto street level and then up onto that building. They've got to get through a lot of enemies, get through some cameras, and those spawn points. So really rough. Now you can see here we're drawing cards. Now the rules state you can select cards, and honestly I'm not a fan of that because I find that when doing that you'll often pick the same loadout, and that's just boring. So this is a house rule, so please keep that in mind, that we'll be drawing cards and as we use them just drawing new. So anyway, we're going to roll dice. That's a cock die, we'll call it the yin-yang. So he rolled a double attack and a defense, and the cock die allows you to gain a life, gain a focus, and select whatever you want. He's going to select movement. Movement is key in this scenario for sure. Alright, so Donnie here is going to go ahead and draw his cards. Now, there are several cards that allow for movement as well, so those are definitely helpful, but we also want defense cards. Now right here, so he drew this does machines card. So as I said earlier, for scenarios that have machines, well then obviously you're going to choose this card. So again, I really don't like that. So I'd rather deal with it because I drew it. Now he rolled a yin-yang as well, so he's going to go ahead and select a movement because he went ahead and rolled a combination defense and attack with his other dice, which is great. Alright, so if you notice, Raph has a whole bunch of dice, so we'll talk more about that later. But one of the cool aspects of this game is you share dice with your allies. So he rolled 3 yin-yangs, we'll deal with those in a minute. But he rolled a regular attack, a ranged attack, as well as a shield. So he's going to go ahead and choose movement with those yin-yangs, because movement really is key. Alright. So Raphael can share with others, but, you know, he doesn't accept any help from other people, so that's why he has so many dice. Alright, it is Mikey's turn here, and we're going to go ahead and draw his cards. Alright, looks good. And one more. Very nice. Now, if you look on the top left corner of the dice, or the cards, it shows what they cost, and you use the dice for these cards as well. Now Mikey has also rolled movement, great. He's rolled a defense, as well as a attack. Now, I mentioned errors, so one of the reasons there are so many errors is that, well, one, I'm not paying attention, but two, the symbols often don't match, especially for attacks and defense, and as we'll see this as we go. So you're going to see an error right here. So Raphael should be sharing a double attack with Donnie, but I pull a movement. So Donnie shared a movement with Leo, and for some reason I just boomeranged that and gave Donnie back his own movement. So he should have a double attack. I do not catch it as we play through here, but please keep that in mind. What you do is you share the edge, whatever dies at the edge. So Michelangelo, for example, accepts a movement from both Leonardo and Raph. Now here, our camera's on the roof. Now I mentioned a difficulty in about line of sight in the first tutorial scenario, and that's definitely a factor here. So I make an error later about that. It doesn't really affect the gameplay, but we'll talk about it more as we go. So we're going to go ahead and move. Now any player can go first. We're going to choose to do Leo here, and then he's going to go ahead and go after this foot. So he has a double attack there, so he gets 2 dice, and he gets 1 for his base. Okay, so 3 dice to roll. He gets 3 potential hits against the foot. Now, The foot is a base defense of 2, and so he gets 2 dice. Alright, so we're going to see how the foot does. Alright, so he rolled no defense, so he's going to take all 3 points of damage. A foot ninja only has 2 life, so he's gone. Now, you'll see here, so we've still got some movement and a defense, so we're going to spend 1 movement die to get up to 3 movement. But as soon as you hit this red zone, you stop moving, okay? But we've got another movement here, so we're going to go ahead and spend that for up to 3 more movement. So that's kind of cool that you can use the dice in this way. So if you wanted, you could spend a die to move, spend another die to attack, and then spend another die to move. That said, you cannot split movement that you've bought. So if you spent a die to move 3 spaces, you couldn't move 1 space, attack, and then move the other 2 spaces. It doesn't work that way. Alright, so our villain's going to draw the initial cards, 5 cards. Alright, so there we are. Great. And then from these 5 cards, we're going to select basically which villains will activate this turn and move and attack. So we're going to choose Brawlers, and we're going to choose Foot. And the big reason for that is these cards provide movement for a lot of figs. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move the Brawlers first, a double movement. Alright, so the Brawler can move up to 6 spaces here. Alright, so that one's going to move right there. A little closer to Donnie. Alright, and then going to attack him. So the Brawler gets 1 attack die, and then another attack die from its base stat. So 2 attack die right here. Alright, and 1 potential hit against Donnie. Now Donnie has a base defense of 4, alright, plus these double attack defense. So it's going to roll a total of 6 dice. Now Donnie is a defense machine. Alright, so 6 dice here for Donnie. And I do believe, if I remember correctly, that he's just fine. He blocks all of those attacks, yes. So 3 of those turtle shells blocks all 3 attacks. Great. So Donnie's done a great job there. And now we're going to move the other Brawler. Now, what we're thinking here is to move the Brawlers up, really just to mess up the turtle's movement. Because if you have an enemy next to you, that minuses movement from you. So we want those Brawlers right up in the faces of the Ninja Turtles. So this Brawler's going to go up against Raph. Again, rolling 2 dice. There's our potential hits. And now Raph's going to roll. Now Raph does have 1 die here, so he gets 1 black die for that one. And he has a base defense of 3, so he can roll a total of 4 dice. Alright, there we go. And not as successful as Donnie, so he does block 1. And he will take 1 point of damage here. Alright, there we are. Great. Moving on. We have the Foot that are going to activate, and quite a few of them can activate. Okay. The problem with this card, though, is they can either move or attack. Okay. Now we have no Foot within range to attack, so we're just going to move them all. And initially, we're thinking, well, no, we don't want to move the Foot right there. We want the Foot off the spawn points. Okay. So these spawn points definitely are a big problem for the Ninja Turtles. So even as they take out the villains, those villains are coming back. So it definitely makes the game quite a bit harder. So we're going to move on here, and we've decided that Donnie is going to go ahead and be our second hero to activate. He's going to go for Fling Person, and we're thinking here, as you can see, we're spending 1 attack and 1 focus. Now that shield is still active for the round, so he can still use that for later. So we're going to keep that close. But he's going to fling this Brawler aside so that he has uninterrupted movement. Okay, so that's key. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and move. He's going to spend 1 of those movement tokens to move up to 3 spaces. He's going to move another token to move again up to 3 spaces. And boom! We're right there into the red zone. Alright, and a final movement to move some more. Now, keep in mind, he should have had a double attack, so he shouldn't have moved. So, again, an error there. But that's okay. Alright, so he does have a combination attack-defense. So we're going to go ahead and spend the 1 attack here and go after a Thug Gunner. Okay? So these ranged combat specialists definitely caused some problems in the last game. Alright, so we're going to roll 2 dice for Donnie here. 1 from the die and 1 for his base attack. For the Thug Gunner has a base defense of 2 and rolled no shield. So Thug Gunner took 2 points of damage, only has 1 life, so the Thug Gunner is gone. Alright, so villain's turn. We slide our cards over, and I forgot to draw 2 cards from last turn, so we're going to draw those now. And more cards for the foot, and more cards for the foot ninjas. Alright, great. So, plenty of cards here to choose from. Great, and we're going to go with the foot again. Okay, move them while we've got them. Or attack. And we're going to go ahead and activate our Thug Gunner while we've still got some of those. So let's go ahead and draw our cards now like we're supposed to. More for the Thug Gunner and more foot. Now if you're curious about the composition of that deck, now those are set by the scenarios, and you'll see the colors, red, green, blue. In this particular one, we've got more foot cards than anything else. Alright, so our foot are going to go ahead and move. The one that is by Leo is going to go ahead and attack him instead of moving. Alright, so 1 die from the card, 1 die for base attack, and go ahead and roll those. Okay, so potential hits, 1 potential hits. Alright, so Leo's going to go ahead and get his die. Now he has a shield there, so he gets 1 die for that. And his base defense is 3. So he's going to go ahead and roll 4 dice against the 1 potential hit. Okay, great, and blocked. So Leo doesn't take any damage, but we're going to still activate more foot. So instead of moving, this foot is going to attack Leo as well. Alright, so same thing again. We've got 2 dice and no hits. Oops, there. 1 potential hit. Leo again, so he has a shield. He has a defense of 3, so he's going to go ahead and roll 4 dice again. Let's see how he does this time. Alright, so plenty of defense, and Leo is unscathed. We're going to move on to the Thug Gunner, and this one's going to go for Donnie. Now, the Thug Gunner is right next to Leo. He can't attack Leo. He has to go for a ranged attack, and he's going to roll 3 dice against Donnie. Now, figures do not block line of sight or anything like that, so he's rolled, wow, so many potential hits. Okay, so if I counted right, that's 6. Now, Donnie has 2 shields right there, so he gets 2 dice. He gets 4 dice for his base defense, so a total of 6 dice against 6 potential hits. Alright, so let's see how Donnie does. Now, I mentioned earlier that we want to keep the turtles together, so far the turtles are doing a good job of staying together. Donnie, though, did not block enough of that, so he's going to take a chunk of damage here. Alright, so from 11 down to 6, so 5 points. We're going to move on to the heroes, and we're going to decide to go with Mikey next. Alright, so Mikey's going to go ahead and use Coming Through. Now, this is one of those special movement cards. What this does is basically allows him to switch places with an enemy and then attack them. Alright, so Mikey's going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and read this card to make sure we get the correct number of die. Alright, and then add a die for his base attack. Alright, so we have 3 dice. Alright, yes. Are we going to spend additional dice to give him additional dice? Yes, we are. Alright, so additional die. Alright. Is that enough? Is this something we want to do? No, it isn't. Alright, so there we are. So 3 dice against the Brawler. And pretty good roll. So 4 potential hits against that Brawler. Now the Brawler has no shields on this card, so that's not going to help him at all. So he has a base defense of 2, so he's going to go ahead and roll 2 dice against Mikey's 4 potential hits. Alright, so how'd we do? He rolled 1 shield, so he's going to take 3 damage, and he has 3 life, so that brawler is gone. So no more. Nothing's going to impede his movement. So he's got to get out of here, so he's going to spend some movement. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, Mikey has a special ability where he gets an additional movement. Wouldn't have to deal with any villains next to him as far as movement penalties, but I often forget to use that. So definitely one of the issues when you're playing all sides. This is actually a really good game if you're hosting. You play the villain and you let the players play each of the hero characters, and it usually works out pretty well. You just keep reminding them, hey, look at your special ability. I'm actually going to forget to use Leo's special ability, and we're going to use it a bit belated, so not a big deal. But definitely much easier when you are running this with multiple players. Alright, so we have Mikey here, moving. And I mentioned earlier that you do not want players striking out on their own, and this is going to come back and bite Mikey in the butt. Alright, so Mikey's way up there, used plenty of movement to push forward. Alright, so this is not a scenario that has a timer, so there's really no rush. So move your characters forward, be nice and careful, and don't strike out on your own. So we're going to go ahead and play a card here for the Foot Ninja and play another one for the Gunner. Alright, draw up our new cards. Alright, so Alopex cards ready to be unleashed, and more Brawler cards. Alright, so there we go. Great. Now then, we're going to go ahead and activate Foot first, and this time they can move and can attack. And if you notice, it also has a defense die. So the Foot gets 1 attack die, alright, and gets 1 more for base stats. So it's going to go ahead and roll 2 dice here, and 1 potential hit against Mikey. Alright, so Mikey does have a shield, so he gets 1 die for that. Oops, there. So he gets 1 die for that, and his base defense is 3. Okay, so 4 dice for Mikey against 1 potential hit. Alright, and how do we do, Mikey? Not so good. Alright, so Mikey is going to take a point here. Is this the beginning of the end? We shall see. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and move on. The Foot are going to go ahead and go after Leo some more. Alright, so we've got 1 die here and another die for the base. So 1 from the card and 1 for base stats, and 1 potential hit. So as you can see, the game plays pretty quickly. Now Leo does have a shield, so he gets 1 for that, and his base defense is 3. And if you're wondering where I'm pulling this from, so if you look at the status cards for Leo, you see this foot symbol. That, of course, is movement. You'll see this kind of blob, which is a foot. I'm sorry, which is a fist, and that is attack. And next to that is this weird bendy thing. That would be an elbow pad or a knee pad or something, which is the defense. So it's definitely one of the things I do not like about the game. Is so if they use turtle shells to represent defense, why didn't they use it on the character cards? It's just bizarre. I can definitely understand why they have where they don't put, like, a sword or something for attack, or because, well, they have ninja stars too. But in my mind, they should have just put a sword and then just said, well, if you have a ninja star, it's basically a sword, but it's ranged. I mean, how easy would that be? Sometimes I feel like, well, maybe I should just get some custom dice made to match the weird symbols on the cards, because that might be cheaper to do than to reprint all the cards. But if they do a Kickstarter in the future, hey guys, either reprint all the cards or make some new dice. Alright, just because that is definitely a pet peeve. It's definitely one of the things that throws off new players when they are coming to the game. Alright, so anyway, we are in Raph's turn right here. He's definitely spent some movement, and he is sticking with the turtles like a good like a good player should. Alright, so he's going up against some foot here. Alright. And the foot has plenty of cards here, but only one of them has a shield. So he gets 1 die for that one. His base defense is 2, so he's going to roll 3 dice against Raph's potential hits. Alright, so gets 1 defense, canceling that one. So that foot is going to take 3 damage, and that foot is gone. So I'm of two minds. Should we knock out all of those villains, knowing that half of them will come back later on, because they are going to get spawned? Or should we just kind of leave them alone? I think you should definitely hit them. Now, in the first tutorial scenario, I did accept one of the options to make it harder on the heroes. But in this scenario, no. This scenario is already tough as it is. As an option to make it more difficult, you can put more enemies on the character cards so that they'll spawn faster. No, I definitely do not recommend that. For this one, it is already rough on those heroes. Okay, so here we are again. Raph going against another Foot Ninja, and this one was a bit more successful. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and mark some damage here and move on to the villain's turn. Alright, so we're going to slide our cards over, and we're going to go ahead and play 2 new cards. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and stay with our foot and play Alopex. So it is time for Alopex to get on the move. Alright, so Alopex has a huge amount of movement. So in this game, we need to get her off the roof, really to get down there and do some damage. Now, in the first tutorial scenario, I made a mistake. I had Raph jump onto a train car by spending movement. Technically, you can't do that at all. You really got to use those yellow, in this case, those yellow fire escapes to move up and down. But in my mind, it makes sense. If the turtles want to climb a railway car, it's cool. Anyway, we have Foot Ninja going against Donnie here. Donnie has 2 defense dice and his base defense of 4, so he's got 6 dice against those potential hits, against that potential hit. So Donnie should be fine, and he is. Alright. Great. We're going to continue with the foot though, and this time it's going against Mikey. Alright, so the foot gets a total of 2 dice here, 1 from the card and 1 for its base stats, 1 potential hit, and Mikey. So Mikey does have a shield die, so 1 for that, and his base defense gives him 3 more. And let's see how Mikey did against that attack. So he blocks that attack just fine. Alright, so Alopex, let's see what she can do. Now, one of the tricks about the game is in movement. You can't move through characters unless they are KO'd. So it's definitely one of the tricks. So as we're moving here, Alopex has a lot of movement, but she decides to jump off the roof. Now, when you do that, you get 4 die of damage, potential damage, I should say. So there we go. So 2 points of potential damage. So I'm sorry, just two points of straight damage. So there we are. So Alopex is going to go ahead and attack. Now I'm thinking there that I made an error. I think she should have rolled defense against those attacks. So anyway, she's going to go ahead and attack Mikey here. Rolls 2 potential hits. Mikey does have a defense die. Mikey does have 3 die of base defense. And we're going to go ahead and roll those. And he only blocks 1, so he will take 1 point of damage. Alright, so Mikey getting whittled over there by his lonesome. Alright, so Alopex is going to attack again. So Alopex cannot combine those dice, by the way, for attacks. So she had to separate them. So here again, rolling 2 dice. She has 1 potential hit. Mikey again is going to go ahead and roll 4 dice. And let's see if he can block this one. He does not. Alright, so Mikey taking chip damage. And down, down, down he goes. All right, so we'll go ahead and clean up, and here's where we check figures. Now we're going to round up and respawn them. All right, so 2 of those means 1 of those will spawn, 1 of those means 1 of those will spawn, and 1 of those means 1 of those will spawn. All right. Okay, Alopex at 7 life. All right, so we're going to go ahead and place these minions. Now, according to the scenario, the foot are supposed to be spawned first. Now, how that really works out, it really doesn't matter. There are so many spawn points on this one, but they are. You can definitely choose which ones will cause the most trouble, and that's exactly what I've done. So here the cameras are again going to move, and here I make an error. So I have that camera pointing forward, and it's like, oh, well, it can see that turtle there, so that door is going to get stronger. Actually, no. The camera cannot look off the lip of that roof. All right, so technically the door should still be at 3 for the focus check, but it doesn't matter in the long run here. All right, so we are back to the heroes rolling their dice. Right here we're just looking over Leonardo's hand. He's still got his full hand of cards there. Alrighty, and we're gonna go ahead and re-roll his dice, and let's see what he's got. Alright, so Leo, 2 ranged attack and 1 melee. No movement. Uh-oh. That's usually a problem. So Donnie's down to 3 life. We're already in trouble as a team. Now, here's his ability to give a focus. Again, timing issue. I just do it now. Not a big deal. When I'm running the game with other players, I'll say, hey, you forgot to do it, and it's fine. So he rolls a yin-yang, which allows him to potentially heal. He does heal 1 point of life. Great. He'd get a focus anyway, but he already did that for his ability. And then he's going to go ahead and choose now. Tricky. More defense. He's in trouble. Or should we get the precious movement? But he's in trouble. He still's got his shield right there, but more shields the better. Alright, so he chooses that one. So again, another turtle with no movement. Alright, so problems. Alright, so looking over Raph's cards there, okay. And we're going to reroll his dice as well. Alright, his life is pretty good right now, so no problems for Raph. Okay. And for Raph, wow, so many shields. Great, so he can share those out with the other players, which is great. He has 1 attack, but no movement. Now he does have the yin-yang. Great. So potential healing here. So for every yin-yang, you'll roll a die, and then however many hits you roll indicates how many life you'll heal. So he's at full life now. He's got full focus, so no problems there. But what will he choose? No one's got movement. We can spend for this one, perhaps. Now this is kind of an error. That's kind of a useless card, so it was kind of silly to choose that attack. But that's okay. Errors happen. Alright, so looking over Mikey's cards here. Alright. Looking good. Now Mikey again. His life's been chipped down a little bit. And here's where we're drawing a card. So again, in the normal game, you would not do this. Whatever cards you selected at the beginning of the game are the cards that you're stuck with for that game. But I don't play that way. Alright, so Mikey's going to go ahead and roll his dice. He gets 2 attacks, 2 melee attacks, and a shield. So it's official, none of the turtles have movement. So problems. Okay, so they are rooted wherever they are. So the turtles now have the opportunity to select which dice are on the edges. Okay, so Leo's going to pull a shell from Mikey. He's going to pull a sword from Donnie. Alright. And Donnie here, we're looking. Oops, didn't have enough cards. So again, he's going to draw a card rather than reuse a card he's already used. Okay, so he draws 10-foot pole, +1. Alright, so he's happy with the lay of his cards. So he's going to pull a sword from Leo and a shield from Donnie. Alright. Alright, so Raph, of course, is fine. He can't pull anything from anybody, and he's sharing shields. Alright, so Mikey's going to definitely have a shield. And from Leo, alright, he pulls another shield. Alright, so the turtles are definitely turtling. Alright, so they've got plenty of shields. Let's see if it makes a difference. Alright, so we're going to go with Leo again. And this time we're going to play a card. So so the turtles have a lot of cards which have standing effects. And I usually recommend to players, just throw it out on the board just so we don't forget. And for me, since I'm playing everyone right now, it's definitely helpful. Alright, so this card allows for quite a bit of defense, so very cool. And it's going to be very useful. It's especially useful because it's for everyone that's around him. Now ideally, we want to move Leo so that he can help out people, but he has no movement. So anyway, he's going to go ahead and attack. He has 2 potential attacks against the Thug Gunner. We want to break that combo up. Thug Gunner has no defense, so no bonus there. So it has to use its base defense of 2. Alright, so Thug Gunner has 2 potential hits to deal with, and rolled no defense. Alright, so Thug Gunner's taking 2 points of damage. It's gone. Bye-bye. Alright, so Leo is still up. He has, again, no movement, but he's got 2 ranged attacks. Alright, so he's going to definitely take advantage against the foot that's further away, but not too far away. Alright, so he cannot attack the one that's adjacent. Alright, so he gets 2 dice from that one. He gets another die for his base stats. And let's see how he does against that foot. Alright, so 4 potential hits. Now for every, and we see here, there are 2 of these cards in play, so it actually has 2 bonus die to defense, and has 2 dice anyway. Now for ranged attacks, for every space beyond 2, you would subtract a hit. Alright, so this foot had 1 there, so it blocks 1 of those, so it still takes 3, because it is within range, so no problems there. Alright, so our villain's turn again. It loses 1 of those foot cards that gave it defense, but still keeps 1. So that's definitely one thing to consider as the villain player, is those defense die. Alright, so we played a Brawler card, and we played another Alopex card. Alright, let's see what we draw. Alright, Shooter card. And another foot card. Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and start with the Brawler. And it has a double movement here. So again, as the villain player, what we're trying to do is lock up the players and really hinder their movement. Alright, and really crowd them in. So now the Brawler is going to go ahead and attack Donnie. Alright, so usually attacking Donnie is a useless thing, but we've gotten some good hits against him. And let's see how we do this time. 1 potential hit. Now, Donnie does get the benefit of Leo's card here. Alright, so 2 dice for that. Donnie does have defense dice, which gives him 3 more. And then his base defense is 4, so he'll have, what was that, 7, 8, 9 dice for defense against 1 potential hit. Alright, so Donnie can't block this. He deserves to die. No way. Love Donnie. Alright, so Donnie, not even going to bother counting the actual number of blocks because it was just 1 potential hit. Now the other Brawler is going to activate. And, oops there. Now that lone Brawler down there is again basically in that terrible position that the other turtles were in. So it has another movement, but that 1 extra movement he cannot stop in that orange zone. So we're going to go ahead and go with Alopex here. Alopex is going to go ahead and attack Mikey. So a total of, whoops there. Let's check this out here. Oops there, forgot that effect. Alright, so some potential healing here. Alright, so Alopex does heal 1 point. And this is one of those things, so you just saw that I forgot a detail of this card. And I'm going to forget a detail later for one of Mikey's cards. And, I'll show you how I deal with it. But yeah, definitely keep track of what's going on those cards, because there are special effects, and they are very important. Alright, so Alopex here has rolled potential hits, and she has rolled a lot of them, so I'm trying to do this one-handed here. So for seven potential hits against Mikey, so huge amount. Alright, so Mikey does have defense dice. Alright, a little bit off camera there, oops, that's okay. So 3, if I counted correctly. He has a base defense of 3, so 3 more. And unfortunately, he's on his own, so no extra benefits there from, for example, Leo's card. Alright, so Mikey against 7 potential hits. Oops, down goes the brawler. Alright, so 1 only. Ugh, huge. Alright, so Mikey's going to take 6 points of damage right here. So Mikey now is in as dire straits as Donnie. Alright, so 6 big ones. Alright, so Mikey is now down to 3 life. Alright, so round of heroes. Mikey, let's see what we can do. 3 life, it's not looking that great. So, here we are. So Whirling Shield, this is an awesome card. So basically Mikey's going to spend his attack right here to have a super defense. And what I neglect to do is, what happens is Mikey gets to attack people that are attacking him. So I forget to do this a few times, and we're going to see how that plays out here. So we're going to go ahead and move on and play a card for our gunner. We're going to play another card for our foot and drop some new cards. So more cards for our foot ninja and more cards for our foot ninja. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with our gunner. And it's going to move forward, and it's going after Mikey. So he's definitely in a vulnerable position. So 2 dice there, and then 1. Now technically the gunner could have stayed there because he has some extra range. But I like to crowd in. It's just what I do. Alright, so 2 potential hits. Whirling Shield here. Give him some bonus to defense. Alright. He has 3 dice because he has defense dice, and then his base stats are 3, so Mikey's going to roll a ton of dice right here. There we go. Alright. And let's see if he can block these potential hits. Okay. Alrighty, so we got those and those. So 3 blocks. So no hits this time. Go Mikey, go. We still got another shooter though. And that one's just going to turn around, take a slight step forward, and it's going to take a shot. And one of the reasons I do like moving them, again, is we just want to block lines of movement. And on this board, there are really just narrow corridors. And if people have corners, they can cut corners, which is legal. But otherwise, no. It's definitely a problem. Alright, so this one has 2 potential hits against Mikey, adding up all those dice. Alright, so here we go again. So Mikey against 2 potential hits with all of these dice. Come on, Mikey. Pull it out. Shifting there. Alrighty. Add it up, and unfortunately, 0 blocks. So Mikey is down to 1 life. Oh, terrible. Alright, so now we're going to activate the foot. And we have these feet. Alright, so that one is right next to Mikey. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. So it's going to go ahead and roll. And unfortunately, it just rolls blocks. So no attack there. So move on to the heroes. It is Donnie's turn. So Donnie's going to go for a spin attack. Try to clear the board a little bit here. Alright. And we're going to slide over the cost of the card. Okay. Now note, even though he paid that cost on that combination melee and defense, the defense die is still active. So he's going to spend the extra die to pump that attack. So this is one of the things. Some of the cards allow you to pump, some of them do not. So definitely keep that in mind as you read. Alright, so first we'll deal with this attack against the brawler. It had no bonuses to defense, so it's just going to use its regular defense. It rolls no shields, so that brawler is gone. Bye-bye. Alright, we're still going to deal with these 4 potential hits against this foot ninja. It has no bonuses to defense, so it's just going to roll its 2 die for base defense. It rolls no defense. Donnie is just clearing the board. Alright, so we're now to the villains. We're going to slide over our cards, and let's see what we can do to try to slow down some of that momentum that Donnie has picked up for the sides of the good guys. Alright, so we've played a card for with our gunner, and played a card for our foot. We've drawn a card for Alopex and drawn one for the brawler. So let's go ahead and start with the shooter. And of course, we're going to see what we can do against Mikey. Alright, it's just a matter of deciding who's going to take that shot. So let's go with this one. Okay. And if I counted correctly, so 3 dice, yes. So potential hits. 3 potential hits against Mikey. Now remember, Mikey has 1 life. Alright, so in this scenario, the villains win if any of the turtles is KO'd. So definitely very precarious to have any turtles with low life in this one. So I really feel like this scenario is skewed heavily in favor of the villains. So just the lay of the board, the number of spawn points, and the fact that 1 KO just ends it. Definitely brutal. And I believe I mentioned it, but yeah, I've yet to see the heroes come away from this scenario with a win. That said, Mikey pulled out a big defense right there. So we're going to go ahead with another shooter. Again, against Mikey. They're really going to go after him with that 1 life. We can smell the win here. Alright, so rolls its die. No! Hits. Alright, so Mikey hanging in there. Now we're going to go with the foot. Alright, so this foot's going to attack Mikey. So it gets 2 dice from the card. 1 die for its base attack. It's going to roll. And here it is, 1 potential hit. Now remember when I mentioned earlier that Mikey has this card, and I make an error, and I do not deal with the fact that Mikey attacks back. Okay, so keep that in mind here, that I just don't do that. And in fact, I didn't do it when Alopex attacked, so definitely a problem. So now we move on to our heroes. Raphael, so many dice, but no movement. He can do nothing. Shortest turn in the history of turns. Alright, so we go back to our villains. We're going to slide our cards over, and Alopex is coming out. Alright, so Alopex and our brawler. Alright, so let's see what we've got for new cards. And I really have to say, this is one of the aspects of the game I do like, this kind of mini deck building aspect. Even though you don't choose the cards, I think it really does mix it up nicely. So Alopex here is going to go ahead and roll her dice. Alright, so 3. Alright, so 3 potentials against Mikey. And now this whirling shield. And Mikey's going to go ahead and grab his dice. All of his dice. Okay. Base stats, his other scores, and we've got a handful of dice against 3 potential hits. Will it be enough? The answer is yes, it will. And again, I mentioned it, I just don't do his attacks against Alopex there. So Alopex is going to attack again. And so this is one of the problems. So Alopex attacked that first time and should have taken damage. And she's attacking again and will be taking more damage. So Mikey basically damages anyone if he blocks them. And Mikey's been blocking like a mad fiend here. Alright, so now Alopex should have been taking damage all this time. Now, of course, we've videoed this, so in hindsight I could have checked it. So is she dead? Is she not? And I'm not really sure. But, you know, you're in the heat of the game, you don't have the benefit of the video, and you know what, so we just say, you know what, Alopex should be down, you know, and maybe that foot should be down too, but, you know, we don't know, we've already taken Alopex, that's a big one, and one of the win conditions for the turtles is Alopex has to be down, so Alopex has to be KO'd, but for the heroes to win, they've also got to unlock those doors, so they're still a ways away. So if you look we've got Foot Ninja blocking the stairwells. So, yeah, I mean, this is a really, really hard scenario for the turtles, because you get the villains just crowding them, and then the turtles really just have these tiny corridors to get through, and it's just a slog, you know, just to tear through them. All right, so anyway, we've got Thug Brawler going against Leo here. All right, so Leo's going to go ahead and pull his dice here. All right, so plenty of dice for Leo on the defense. Let's see what he can do against that one potential hit. Okay, so does just fine. All right, so we're going to go ahead and clean up. So right here again, we're counting the number of figs and then rounding up. That's how many spawn. So 3 foot, so 2 will come back. We had 1 brawler, so it's coming back. And so you can see here that as the villain player, man, you're just going to stick them where it can really hurt them. So we're going to stick that brawler near the roof, on the stairs, stick a gunner on that side, just to clog it up. So again, we have the cameras here. They really cannot see off the roof just because of how they're oriented. But yeah, so should the turtles, should the heroes survive that gauntlet, get onto the roof, then they still have to deal with the cameras. Anyway, Leo's gone ahead and drawn another card. Zero Doubt, one of my favorite cards for Leo, actually. Let's see if he gets a chance to use it. We are, of course, re-rolling our dice. Alright, so Leo, we got a movement this time. We've got a defense and a yin-yang. So potential healing right here. Yes. Alright. Wait a minute. He's already at full life. That was silly. And he does get to get another focus. He does get a focus back, though. Alright, he does also get to choose what he wants. And since he has a movement, he's going to go ahead and select a double attack. But will it be there? Should he get a movement? Maybe movement. So we definitely got to move. So Donnie right there, we're tapping it to say that he's going to give Mikey the extra focus, which is fine. He's going to go ahead and draw another card. It is a guard. All right. Very useful at this point. All right, so he rolls a movement and then those combination, melee and defense. All right, so Raphael, unfortunately, had a useless turn last time. So let's see what he gets this time. Yay, he got some movement. Fantastic. And you know, it's either one or the other, so not so many attacks this time. He's got full life, full focus, so he's just going to select. Got plenty of movement. It's going to go ahead and select a double ranged attack. Alright, so there we are. Great. And now Mikey, who is in dire straits. He's got his full hand of cards, so he's all set. Alright, and no movement, but 3 attacks. So he is surrounded, so movement wouldn't help him anyway. So here we are. He's getting that focus from Donnie's ability. And he will draw his 3rd card, so Party Dude. Alright, fair enough. And, 1 life. 1 life from the edge, from the end. Alright, so the heroes do get a chance to rearrange their dice. Leo's happy, so he's going to pull an attack from Mikey. And from Donnie, he's going to pull one of those combination defense attacks. Alright, so... but do we want to give Leo movement? Nah, we're good. Alright, so Donnie does pull a movement from Leo. And again, he cannot give anything to Raph. Alright, so it doesn't matter what's going on that side. But from Raph, he's going to pull a movement. Okay? But since he has so much movement, does he want to get something else from Raph? Maybe a shield? These decisions. Alright, so in the end, we decide to keep it. Maybe to give movement to the other turtles, hopefully. You get over there to save Mike. Alright, so Mikey's going to go ahead and pull a shield from Raph and from Leo. He's going to pull another shield. Now, if you notice, that shield token is green on one side and brown on another. That is a little pet peeve of mine. I feel like, you know, they could have arranged these slightly differently so that it would be just that little bit easier to figure out which tokens are what. So if it had a shield token. Maybe it should have just been brown, right? Anyway, it's a minor thing. Moving on. This time we're going to start with Donnie. All right, so Donnie's going to see what he can do. So initially I thought, well, if I run him over to Mikey, maybe he can help. But maybe no. Let's go on this side. So this was definitely a tactical error. Was just coming on this side. So the idea was, and you can see here, so the camera cannot see Donnie because he's not on the roof. So the idea here was, okay, if we take out this foot, we can get him on the roof, and with all of his focus, he can start opening those doors. Okay, so yeah, but this I think was a tactical error. Yeah, Donnie really should have run over there and see what he could do about protecting Mikey. Yeah, this was kind of a kind of a bad move. Anyway, Donnie, you go ahead and rolling his dice here. 3 potential hits. The foot has no bonuses on the cards, so just uses its base stats of 2. And there we are. Only blocks 1, so it takes 2 points of damage, and it has 2 life, so it's gone. So as far as it went, all right. So Donnie has started to clear the path, which is good. But let's see what the villains do. Alright, so clear those cards, slide those cards over. Notice that the brawler has double defense. We're going to get Alopex going here. And the foot. Now keep in mind that Alopex is down, so we're going to see in this game how the villains deal with a KO'd character. Alright, so we drew a card for the brawler, and another card for the brawler. Alright, so Alopex is KO'd, so let's see how this works for the villain main character. So she's going to use that card to activate. So right in here we're calculating. Alright, so she has some fellow minions next to her, so she gets bonuses for that, but she's next to a hero, so she gets a minus for that. She takes her base defense, and anyway, all told, she rolls this number of dice, and there's the number. The hits are all we count, so we're going to add it up. So 1, 2, 3, so she gained 3 life, but if you look at the bottom of that heart, there's kind of a swirly arrow. She does not exceed that threshold, so she is still knocked out. Alright, so we're going to move on to our foot ninja. And again, we're going to try to slow up the other turtles here. So we moved over. We get 1 attack from the card and 1 attack from base defense. And 1 potential hit against Raphael. Alright, Raphael has plenty of shield dice. His base defense of 3. Alright, so... and Raphael really has full life, so he's not really too worried right now. It's the other turtles that are kind of in trouble. Alright, so he does block it. No big deal. We're back to the foot again. Alright, so I've said it before and I'll say it again. You definitely want to break up these groups. So even in these scenarios where they're spawning, you may as well knock them out. I find that that really is the way to go. And if you have the opportunity to overkill, shade on the side of overkill, just go ahead and do it, especially if you have no movement to move on. Alright, so there we are. We had our potential hits, 2 potential hits are against Raphael here. He's got plenty of defense, and he blocks it. So Raphael is just fine. So let's move on to the heroes. And right here, so I mentioned earlier, so Leonardo has the ability to swap dice between characters. So technically you're supposed to do this before you actually run around and do stuff, but I've done this for players. So they're in the heat of battle and they're like, hey, wait a minute, no, I haven't spent this die and they haven't spent this die, can we swap it? And I've said, yeah, it's not a big deal. So that's what I did here. So Leo has that ability to swap the die. And to be honest, I've always felt like Leo was just the least interesting of all the turtles. But allowing him to use that ability during the game really just makes him awesome. So I really feel like, you know what? Yeah, do it during the game. Leo needs some awesomeness. Anyway, we have Mikey against the foot here. See if he can't give himself some breathing room. And the answer is... well, let's see. Alright, so we've got the foot here. No bonuses from the card. 2 from base. And rolls, no shields. Alright, so that foot is gone. Mikey does earn himself a little bit of breathing room. Okay. And with his movement dice, care of Leo, he's going to get out of there. Now, he was next to Alopex, who was KO'd, so that made no difference. But Mikey does have the ability to break away if it was an issue. Now, tactical error perhaps, but he moved right next to that brawler, hoping that the villain does not have a brawler card. Oh, hoping and praying. But of course I do. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and play that brawler card. And we're going to go ahead and play a regroup. Alright, so regroup is basically we're going to shuffle. So I'll be able to have a full hand of cards. I will be able to play another card on deck. And then I just shuffle everything in. Alright, so just basically keep that in mind. So you do get another card. You will have a full hand of 5 cards. And basically everything is shuffled. Alright, so just keep that in mind. There is a timing thing about when that card can be played, but yeah, other than that, should be good. Alright, so we've drawn up some cards there, and let's see if we can take Mikey out with our Brawler. Alright, so Brawler's going to turn around and go for Mikey here. Now, they are adjacent, so this was a mistake I've made in the past where someone in the blue zone versus someone not in the blue zone. Now, someone in the blue zone and someone in the yellow zone, like that fire escape right there, would be adjacent. Okay, so those adjacency issues, definitely keep those in mind. Anyway, we have the Brawler here, and Mikey's only blocked 1. So, unfortunately, Mikey has been KO'd, which means that it's a win for the villains. Okay, so that pretty much ends this one. So Mikey down. Oh, there we go. So one of the cool things about this game, though, is it really doesn't matter if the villains win or the heroes win. You will move on to the next scenario, and I think that's pretty cool. So you enjoy the game as is, but it doesn't stop you from moving forward. So it's actually kind of nice. I think it gives it a nice story feel, really. All right, so that wraps up this one. So let's go ahead and finish off with some flavor. Alopex and her new foot ninja proved to be too strong for the heroes. During all the commotion, Alopex makes her mistake. So that wraps up this one. Thank you so much for joining me for this second playthrough. Up next, we've got Reject Roundup. Thanks a lot. Bye.